Hello and welcome to my review of the Japanese PlayStation 3 game White Album. This game was originally released by Leaf in 1998 and was re-released in 2010 by Aqua Plus. Please keep watching to find out my impressions of this nearly 12-year-old game re-released on the PlayStation 3. This game is basically a love story, and you play the main character Toya Fuji, and he had been going out with this girl here, Yuki, in high school, and you guys are both in college now, and you've kind of drifted apart, and she's working to become a professional singer. You can see her here with her manager, and this is at a television station that you work at part-time. So you guys end up running into each other pretty frequently, and a lot of the main story is really about you two reconciling your relationship. And while that happens, you're also meeting other characters. This character's name is Rina. She's also trying to become a professional singer, and this is her brother, who is a producer. You run into these characters. He features fairly prominently in her story arc as well as Yuki's. Rina's an interesting character. She's kind of a rich girl. She's an ojo-sama, and I remember at one point, like, you guys start talking about art, and she starts mentioning pop artists like Roy Lichtenstein, and says she doesn't like, H.R. Giger and stuff. It's just some kind of funny stuff. She'll tease you kind of unmercifully about not knowing things like, expensive brands of China and things like that. But all in all, she's actually a really kind character. This girl, she looks very young, almost like she's in middle school, but she's actually a high school senior, and you wind up interacting with her via taking a temporary position as a tutor, so you wind up tutoring her, and she's a really interesting character. She's kind of a shut-in, and you end up getting her interested in school again. I definitely recommend checking out her storyline. Other characters in the game I'm less familiar with, but the other characters, you all go to college together, and I have a feeling there's probably the typical childhood friend character, things like that, but this is a little bit more of a traditional sort of game like this, as opposed to Ori no Emoto ga Kono ni Kawaii Wake ga Nai, which I did some videos for recently. This is a little more straightforward. You have different choice segments, and when you pick a choice, it determines how the story branches, and I kind of like how it's usually pretty obvious what you're choosing. I found it pretty easy to navigate the paths if you're trying to focus on one character or the other. Just spend time with them and choose the choices that make sense with them. You're going to run into unique scenes with each character, and the scenes are pretty nice. This is your typical day, though, which is checking out different locations and then seeing what characters you can interact with and then making a choice. Here we chose an event. You can see the exclamation point there. So this was actually an event with a unknown character, so we've got to see. So it turns out it's this girl here. And this is a cafe where you also work part-time. You're spreading yourself pretty thin, I think. You work at an awful lot of places for a college student, and you spend very little time actually going to college, but it affords you the opportunity to meet and interact with a lot of characters in a lot of different locations, and it also lets you run into characters, especially like Yuki, who everybody who works at the TV station tends to come eat at this cafe, etc., etc. So you have a lot of sort of inbred interactions. A lot of the people that go to school with you, maybe work here or things like that. And that's one of the things I like about this game. It almost reminds me of Spider-Man, where everybody has, like, kind of either professionally or personally, there's some connection to each other. And that features pretty prominently in people's story arcs. I think that's one of the real strengths of this game, and I think the story and the scenarios are probably the strong point of this game. I think they're well done. It kind of makes sense to me why this game was re-released after 12 years. I think that's probably the main justification. But So some of the scenes are kind of few and far between. if I have a gripe about this game. And in addition to that, they're very wordy. You get a lot of the characters' inner thoughts and feelings, and they can tend to go on and on a little bit. Kind of like if you're reading a really good book and you don't want it to stop, that can be a good thing. But sometimes I think these scenes could have been a little bit more concise. I think that instead of spanning 4 months worth of days, the game probably could have spanned 3 months of days. But when you do get these kinds of scenes, they're very sweet, they're very well done. There's a lot of good music in the game too. The music is featured fairly prominently. You don't get a lot of these sort of movie sequences, but when you do, they're very welcome, and they sort of punctuate the game in welcome ways. So in addition to the characters and the story and the music, you also have your typical gameplay is going through each day of the week, and you get to pick wherever it is you want to go, whatever characters you want to interact with. And I found that freedom at first a little disconcerting, but after a while I got used to it, and I don't think it's such a bad thing. But what you can see right here we chose was actually an event. That was an event to buy a birthday gift for one of the characters. So you have events, then you also have your normal conversations. This is just a regular conversation. And here you can see we have a chart of these various topics of conversation. So as you engage in a topic of conversation with a character, you will get better at that topic of conversation, and it will actually unlock new conversation options with various characters, which I think is kind of cool. You can see that just unlocked there. These tags show things that you've already seen, which is very nice. And you have some real modern amenities in this. You can save at decision points, which is really helpful. You can skip ahead, you can skip things you've already seen, which is really nice. You also have this conversation history that you can view, and you can actually re-voice act the line, which is really neat. So you just select it. Let's say that there was a kanji that you saw and you didn't quite catch how it was pronounced. Just go back and have it re-voice acted. The kanji in this game is pretty interesting. I think that the reading level in this game is not too high, but there are some words written in kanji that I don't know if I've seen written in kanji before in the kind of things I read, like kakowarui and kakoi, or like I think wakaru is written in hiragana fairly frequently, but here there's a lot of kanji. So I actually learned some new kanji playing this game, which is good for your reading if you're interested in that. A lot of these menus have some English though, which is nice if that's your first language. So in the end, I'm really glad that they remade this game on the PlayStation 3. In all honesty, I probably never would have played it if they hadn't done that, and that would have been a shame because I think that this game has a really nice story, and I like this kind of game, and I'm really glad that I played it. It's something I never did play back in the day, and I never would have gone back to do so. For maybe people who did play the game back in the day, they did try to provide some additional motivation for playing this again. The PlayStation 3 version does have a new character, which is only available in this version of the game. You can play that story arc if you've beaten the game once. I actually haven't tried it out yet because, in all honesty, I've been restoring from saves from my first playthrough in order to unlock some of the different routes. But that does provide some extra play value. There's also just the inclusion of trophies in this game is actually kind of neat. It provides you a little bit more motivation to maybe play through the game, gives you a little more incentive to do some things that I doubt you'd have any incentive to have done in the old game, so that's kind of nice to see too. So really, I would recommend this game if you like a love story and you're interested in this kind of game at all, and you have a PlayStation 3, even if it's not a Japanese PlayStation 3, you can play this on your US or your European PlayStation 3 due to the region-free nature of the games. So I hope that you give this a try, and I hope that you come by my gaming blog, Playongo.com, for additional information. Thanks for watching.